Let's talk about this Arizona Cardinals regime. Let's use that word right there, regime. Let's classify this, Wolf, as the Monty Fort, Jonathan Gannon era. Let's treat them together. Cardinals are now 3-7 on the year. This season has taken a turn, and I'm being pretty nice when I say that. They were 2-0, and now they're 3-7. They've lost 7 of their last 8. The story in the first half of the year was all of these close losses. Now the story is back-to-back blowout losses to divisional opponents. Something that has been a theme throughout our first hour of the show, Wolf, has been not only the lack of carryover from last year, but more our disbelief in looking at everything that they built up last year, everything that we knew about what a Jonathan Gannon, Monty Fort designed football team was supposed to do, was supposed to play like. It's been totally absent this year, and I'll just ask the question that we set up. Like, what is your current confidence level in a football team led by these two guys with what we've seen this year?
Yeah, once again, it's very difficult for me because I know that Monty Fort and JG coming into this season, of course, it's year 3 of the rebuild. And anytime you're talking about in the National Football League, year 3 of the rebuild, it pretty much is a fulcrum season. Fulcrum season for your coach, fulcrum season for your general manager, and it was certainly a fulcrum season for Kyler Murray as well, your franchise quarterback. Oddly enough, it might actually be Kyler Murray and Kyler Murray moving on as the franchise quarterback and going somewhere else that might actually, this is just me, might actually save Monty Fort and JG's job because of that kind of upheaval. Once again, I likened it to a king deposed. That's what it's like. A franchise quarterback is like a king deposed in the locker room. And once that happens, it's very, very difficult to make amends, if you will. It's one of the things that I was looking for, frankly. When Kyler Murray was put on IR and here's Jacoby Brissett, I thought there was going to be a little bit more clarity in regard to how guys went out and played. And I think we've seen that to some degree. Jacoby Brissett and the Arizona Cardinals offense, for the most part, I think have played pretty competitively. The defense has been a bit of a disappointment to me in a big, big way, especially when you think of Walter Nolan and Darius Robinson. Those two guys specifically, when we talk about general managers and drafts and draft picks and what could possibly happen. Could you see changes down the road? It all depends what happens in these last 7 games. That's what I believe. Again, nobody's told me that. I hope it doesn't happen because I think Monty Fort is good at what he does, and I think JG is the same thing. For me, personally, players have to go out and play better. I think of Darius Robinson. And he actually played, he had 5 tackles, as a matter of fact. 5 tackles yesterday. And that to me was really, really encouraging to see him getting involved in some tackles. Yet at the same time, if those tackles are occurring down the field, it's not very encouraging, if you know what I mean.
I'm with you on needing more time, but the way that I'll elaborate on that is by first saying my confidence level is the lowest that it's ever been. I think you can look at the style in which they are losing these games to back up what I'm saying, because, again, this is what bad football teams do, and I'll state it more bluntly, this is what bad organizations do. You lose games in the way in which they are losing them. I don't want to play the injury card much at all during today's show. I will actually be the first person to play it on this show for the defense specifically because, again, going into the year, they were down so many corners, and then the guys that are out, like Max out, Will's out. It's just a very uphill task. Guess what? San Francisco handled that uphill task just fine as well. But the way in which they were losing football games before the bye, and I thought that it was even more incriminating the way the offense looked when Kyler Murray was out, because what I mean by that is they were clearly unable to maximize their franchise quarterback, the most important player on their roster, the player that is making the more money than anyone pretty much on the roster by a significant margin. They were unable to maximize him, design a system around him, and then once a mildly competent NFL quarterback came in, that knew how to play under center, that knew how to run play action, all the stuff that clearly Petzing and Gannon want to do on a consistent basis, all of a sudden the offense has life again. And there's so many different signs of that throughout this year, where what I'm starting to get, and I won't be there until the end of the year to get to my point here, is a little bit of deja vu. Do I think that Michael Bidwell is going to give out extensions to Gannon and Ossenfort in the same way that he did to Cliff and Keim? I do not. And of course, that year went a whole lot differently than this year did. But within that year, we saw significant warning signs that this foundation was not nearly as stable as it was supposed to be. So my deja vu would be, we cannot have a wasted year. We cannot look at what goes through this entire year for our football team, bring back Ossenfort, bring back Gannon, win 5 to 6 games again next year, and then fire them, especially if they draft a quarterback, especially. If you are going to draft a quarterback in the first round, you have to be dead set on these guys being your GM and being your head coach, because that wasted year might as well be 3 for organizations of this mold. Some organizations can get away with it. You look at what Chicago is trying to do right now with Caleb Williams after Matt Eberflus got fired. Ben Johnson comes in. Caleb's looking better and better by the week because, again, he essentially had a wasted year with a guy who was not going to be his head coach for the long term. That is really where Kyler's influx point on this, to what you were talking about, Wolf, makes this conversation so interesting, because if Kyler was playing great football, or if these games would have gone their way, and when Kyler would have gotten hurt, we would have been like, well, they were winning games with Kyler, they were 5-2 or whatever. That is easily disproven. Kyler's going to be gone. I completely agree with you. And so now it's like, okay, what's your future at quarterback, and how does that affect what your future is at head coach and GM? Because I think they're so directly related here.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see, once again, what happens over the last 7 games. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine as well. Yet at the same time, I think that we're going to see over the next 7 weeks what exactly this team could possibly be. Now, having said that, again, I'm talking about all the injuries that have happened to them. That it makes it very, very difficult to weigh and measure what we're seeing right now. Now, again, I will also say Darius Robinson and Walter Nolan III, those 2 guys specifically, I think it's really going to be important how they develop over the course of these 7 games. Marvin Harrison Jr., when are we going to see Marvin Harrison Jr. again? I don't know, but I do know this. This has not been the slam dunk year you wanted to see from Marvin Harrison Jr., and we all know that. And I'm talking about when he was healthy as well. There's a lot of questions, and I think there could be changes, no doubt about it. It's just not up to me to make that determination.
Because you can play like the season is over card all you want, but to your point, these games
just don't know the inside information.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Well, and we don't know as well, when we're filling out the depth chart for next year, how many names are we writing in pen, to your point, the guys that we can rely on to be a part of the next great Cardinals team, whenever it is, whether it's next year, whether it's 3 years from now, whether it's 5 years from now. Who are your core guys? There's some guys we have already up there. There's a few that we want to see some more from, and we'll talk about those, of course, as the season goes on.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.